Hey everyone, German 1990 here once again. There's a couple changes that I made to my gaming system since shooting my previous update video back in January. For one, I moved my Nintendo 64 here so I could be closer to the TV, to the AV output cable here. But that's not the only thing that has happened when it comes to my gaming systems. I'm sure some of you can tell it could still be quite a bit organized. I got quite a bit of systems here. But there is another gaming system to add to my collection. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to the Retron 5. Fantastic retro gaming system from Hyperkin. And it came in the color scheme that I wanted, very reminiscent of the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It can play a whole bunch of platforms. It can play Nintendo Famicom games. Oh, goodness gracious. Woo! That was close. I almost dropped my VR set. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, this can play my Nintendo Famicom games. Where is it? I actually got my Super Mario USA game working on it. It can play that very, very well. Here's where it can play Nintendo Entertainment System games. This is where it can play not just Super Nintendo Entertainment System games, but Super Famicom games as well. And then you have a slot for Sega Genesis games as well as Sega Mega Drive games, such as this Rystar game. I'm very glad to have it working. It can also play Game Boy Advance, Game Boy titles as well. And there's something I'm planning on getting. I don't want to let you guys in on what it is until I actually get it, but there is something for the Retron 5 that I plan on getting soon. So I feel very lucky that I can play a lot of platforms on one clever little device. I remember it's a pain in the... It's a real pain just trying to get the Super Nintendo cartridges out. Let's see how narrow this thing is. Man, it's really close together, isn't it? No wonder. But it's still a great system to have. But I'm going to tell you this. This is the beginning of a very special 20th anniversary video of when I got into video gaming, and I'll tell you the story of how I got into video gaming. A little bit over 20 years ago, I never ever thought I was going to get into video games at all. I saw all video games, guys, I mean all, as just violent, bloody, macabre, all that nasty stuff, and I saw it was something that only bad people did. I just never thought I was going to get involved with them. And then I remember it was late 1997, early 1998. I was in second grade, and I had someone tell me that, I have a Wheel of Fortune game on the Nintendo, and he knows how much I love Wheel of Fortune. And he says, I have a Wheel of Fortune game on the Nintendo, and while I thought it would be very, very nice to have a Wheel of Fortune be a video game, I didn't think there would be such a thing, because, like, again, my perception of video gaming was very different. And it's kind of ironic, considering that the violence is what attracted a lot of kids to video gaming. That's what repelled me away from them, and I just never thought I was going to get involved. And this was, in addition, this was a guy I didn't initially get along with, so he had to drag me over to his house, and finally we played Wheel of Fortune Deluxe Edition on his Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And that's when I started, and that's all it took. Me, you know. And once I figured it out, it was something. So once, and then he and once he got the ball rolling for me, he introduced me to some other video games of other video game series as well, such as the Super Mario Brothers franchise. Now, I at first didn't do well at. Now, he was a very simple gaming series, but I gotta tell you, I sucked at Super Mario Brothers because I had never touched a video game controller before. I had no knowledge of this. I had nothing. And I remember playing some Super Mario Brothers games with him. Super Mario Brothers Super Mario All-Stars, which I do have. I have the limited edition for the Wii today. I also played Super Mario World, and like I told you before, I sucked at these. It was something I was not good at, and eventually I kept getting better and better, and that's what it takes. Practice makes perfect. But despite me not doing so well at Super Mario Brothers at first, it still didn't stop me from loving Super Mario Brothers. I remember watching the Super Mario Brothers Super Show on VHS. There was a video store. It closed down a few years ago, but they had some Super Mario Brothers Super Show episodes on VHS, and I remember watching them. And I remember liking those. That was nice. I've also watched the Super Mario, and I also watched the ill-fated Super Mario Brothers film on VHS, and I have it. The video store sold it to me. They were done with it, so they were nice enough to sell it to me. I am thinking about getting the movie on DVD, and I understand a lot of people hated that movie. I know out of all the movies that Bob Hoskins had ever starred in, this was his least favorite film. He hated it. There are only a few people out there who say, well, yeah, the film could have been better, but it could have been worse. And there are some gaming enthusiasts, such as myself, who think that way. And I said, could the film have been better? Yes. At least they kept the names. So, I loved Super Mario Brothers, and I still do. But even after getting into video gaming, I never thought I was going to get... And again, this was just another thing that would be proven untrue. Even after getting into video gaming, I never thought I was going to get into the Sonic the Hedgehog series. And why not? Well, for one, there are a lot of reasons why I never thought I was going to get into Sonic. He looked a little too cool, a little too badass, and a little too intimidating for my tastes. And plus, were his video games going to be, were his games going to be easy enough for me to play? Or was it just something I was going to forget about? But the story of how I got into the Sonic series started not long after I got my Super Nintendo Entertainment System. May 2nd of 1998, I got a Super Nintendo Entertainment System, as well as $200 in gift money for my first communion, which was which was nice. I remember whenever I got a card and had money inside, I would go bonkers. It was something. But I remember getting this one card from my parents, and not 1 cent was inside, but they had something really nice, and it was the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. As I said before, I no longer have the system. I gave it to a friend, and we've since parted ways, and I do wish him well. But I got something that's really nice. I showed you the Superboy that I had, that I got, and later on tonight. I shot the previous video yesterday. Didn't have a lot of time to shoot this video yesterday now, so now I'm doing it. But I got some really nice systems that will play Super Nintendo Entertainment System games, such as the Retron 5 and the Superboy. Later on tonight, I plan to exchange the Superboy for a new one. Hopefully, it's not as defective. So yeah, here's some of the games that I have. Here's Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, where are you at? So I remember this was the box that but exactly 2 months before getting my Super Nintendo Entertainment System, I got my own copy. My friend who got me into video gaming here's well, actually, this is not the box. This is another box that I bought recently. But yeah, this was the Wheel of Fortune game that we would play on a Super Nintendo, and he got me my own copy of Wheel of Fortune Deluxe Edition. And I do have the original Wheel of Fortune game for the SNES as well. So, there's that. But then I remember seeing this one Wheel of Fortune game for, I remember being at a video game store not long after I got my Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and I saw this one Wheel of Fortune game, and I saw the screenshots on the back, and I remember I really, really, really wanted to play it. There was one small problem. It was for the Sega Genesis, and that was something that I did not have. And I remember whining endlessly about it. Don't even get me started on that. But my mother eventually got me a copy of the game, and the good news was my cousin had a Sega Genesis on him. So sometime that year, 1998, he lent me his Sega Genesis so I could play Wheel of Fortune on it. And there would be times where I would bring the Wheel of Fortune game with me, and we would play, and I would play it at his house. But then I remember summer of 2001, early summer of 2001, with Wheel of Fortune on my mind, I decided that I wanted to play Wheel of Fortune for the Genesis again. And this time I went, and again, I went to my cousin, and he lent me his Genesis so I could play Wheel of Fortune on it. And he lent me some games, to check out. One game he lent me was this game, Mario Andretti Racing. This wasn't his copy. I bought my own copy online recently. And I like playing that. That was a fun game. And I'm sure you're thinking, wait a minute, a Mario game on the Sega Genesis. No, it's not Super Mario. It's Mario Andretti. So, another game he lent me was a Spider-Man game. And I'm not really much into comic books, superheroes. But my brother enjoyed playing it. And I guess because I didn't enjoy playing it. But two of the other games were Sonic games. Sonic 2 and Sonic and Knuckles specifically. And I remember seeing those and I was like, I don't know. But he lent it to me, let's play him anyway. And again, although I first sucked at him, I remember could not get past this one part of Chemical Plant Zone in Sonic 2. But once I figured out how simple the game was, I just fell in love with him. I went from rather skeptical of him to downright supportive of him. And today I'm a huge fan of Sonic. I mean, I'm certainly one of the biggest fans you will meet on the south side of Chicago. So, so I've been a big fan of him ever since. I've been in love with him now for nearly 17 years. And it turns out, I would find out that it was just a mere coincidence, but turns out I picked a really interesting time to get into the Sonic series. And I'll tell you why in the second part of my video. So, stay tuned for part number 2.